Welcome to Photoshop. While we are moving on to a new program, all of our lessons and tutorials are going to be based off of the assumption that you know what you were doing when you use Illustrator. So we will be using a lot of familiar vocabulary as well as introducing some new words for you. So for our first assignment in Photoshop, we're going to get to know Photoshop in general. And we're going to be doing that through Google Classroom. You should download the attachment under the Photoshop practice of these balloons. Open it in a new window and hit that download button just like you've done before, and you'll have that Photoshop practice JPEG down here in your downloads bar. So first of all, when we're looking at Photoshop, we have two options. We can create a new project, or we can open an existing file. And we're going to be using both pretty equally. Where in Illustrator, we almost always hit create new. With Photoshop, we'll be doing probably more opening than anything else, but we will occasionally be creating new. And it's important to know the difference between them. When you hit create new, you'll see this familiar new document setup pop up where you can change your width and height, the orientation of your canvas, if you want it to be portrait or landscape, measured in inches, or all these other options. We like inches in this class. And then the thing that's new for you guys is going to be this box that says resolution. This is the number of pixels that appear per inch. And remember that we want our default in this class to be 300. And when you hit create, you'll see that you have a fresh canvas in your work area. Remember that this was called an artboard in Illustrator, and it is now called a canvas that we're using Adobe Photoshop. And then on the left-hand side here, you have your toolbar. At the very top, you have your menus. And then you have your generic properties over here, along with your important palettes, such as your layers palette. And then you have your tool specific properties right underneath the menu, in between the menu and the tools. And this will change based off the tools that you have selected. Okay, so for this first project, because we downloaded something from the internet, the JPEG practice, we're actually going to go to File, Open for this. And then go ahead and open the JPEG file that you just downloaded. You can see that the difference between opening and creating new is that when I create new, I have an untitled work with a nice blank canvas. And then my layer here, I automatically have that background layer. When I open an existing file, it's quite literally opening that file in Photoshop. So while everything is on one layer, I have the file name showing up here on this tab. And you can see that there's already items on my artboard. Okay, so just some things to review. In Photoshop, you can create new layers just like you did in Illustrator. You'll see that when you create a new layer, it has this white and gray checkerboard in the thumbnail. The white and gray checkerboard in Photoshop always means transparency. So that means that this layer is completely see-through until I decide to add something to it. Another common use of layers in Photoshop is duplicating layers, and we can do that by dragging and dropping our selected layer down to the new layer button, and it will make a copy. This is nice to do because when you are opening a file, it always shows you a before and after of all the changes that you make. So this is a good practice to do, to always make a background copy, but you do not have to. What we're going to cover in our tour today are two of the most basic but most important tools that Photoshop has. We have our various ways of selecting, and we have a total of 6 different tools in order to do that. We have the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, the magnetic lasso tool, the object selection tool, the quick selection tool, and the magic wand selection tool. I'm going to show you how these work using everyone's go-to favorite, the quick selection tool. The selection tools will allow you to select certain parts of your screen by clicking and dragging. What the tool does is recognize the colors that you are clicking on and selects all of the pixels related to that color. So what I'm going to do with my quick selection tool is click and drag on the red balloon. And you can see that the computer has picked up that I want everything within that boundary of the red versus the white background. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Now that I've selected it, I have a flashing dotted line going around the selected area. This flashing dotted line is sometimes referred to as the marching ants. And it means that this part of my canvas has been selected. While something is selected, I can do all sorts of things to it, like make changes to it without making changes to anything else on the screen. So using this, I can do things such as change the hue, which will change the color of the balloon. And ultimately, that's what we're going to do with all of our balloons today. In order to deselect something, you can use the shortcut Control D on your keyboard, or you can go up to the select options and click deselect. If you accidentally deselect something that you want to select again, you can hit reselect and it will select it again for you. The other important tool that we're going to be talking about is the brush tool, which is used for painting. So I can take the brush tool, and while I have this selected, I can use the brush tool to change the color of this balloon and color as if I'm coloring with a crayon. And now I have filled in the balloon with the green color only in the areas that were selected. If I didn't have anything selected, as you can see, I'm left to my own devices of trying to trace here. So selecting really helps your accuracy in Photoshop when you are covering over existing items that you are tracing. So for our practice, we're going to change the color of all of these balloons to the colors of your choice. And we're going to do that in two different ways. One way we're going to do is by using the brush and then a couple of other important tools that go along with the brush to change our balloons. And the other way is going to be by manually doing it through our image adjustments. So let's get started. First, I'm going to select my red balloon again using the quick selection tool. If you want to learn how to use some of these other selection tools, the magic wand works similarly, but it's not always as accurate, and you have to hold down Shift to get different parts selected. Another student favorite is the magnetic lasso tool, which allows you to trace the outside of the thing that you're trying to select. The computer will read the difference between your lines and make a selection for you. All of our selection tools have different purposes for selecting different items, but most students' favorite by far is the quick selection tool because it's very intuitive, allows you to select multiple things at the same time, unlike the magic wand tool, and there's minimal tracing involved for accuracy, unlike the magnetic lasso tool. I've selected it with just one click using the quick selection tool. Now that I have my marching ants, let's change this side with the image adjustments. When you go up to the image menu and hover down to adjustments, you will see a whole ton of photographic adjustments that you can make to any image in Photoshop. For this purpose, we want to open the hue and saturation menu. as you just saw, the hue, and by sliding the little slider under hue through these different colors, allows me to change the color of whatever I have selected. So I can change this red balloon subtly to be pink, or I can change it drastically to like a minty aqua color. To accept this, I'm just going to press OK. You can see that the little white line inside the balloon has stayed the same color because you can't apply a hue to white. So I'm going to do the same thing now to the orange balloon. Select it, go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and then I'm going to change the color. Now you can see that I actually have two things selected right now, so it's changing both of my balloons. So I'm going to hit Cancel. Make sure, if you don't want it to change all of your balloons at the same time, to deselect. Or if you want to change a whole bunch of your balloons at the same time, you can go for it. And select multiple balloons, go to Image, on the menu, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and change their colors. So that is the photographic aspect of Photoshop, where we can make subtle changes using the photographic menus under Image and Image Adjustments, which is super cool. But Photoshop is also used for something called digital painting, which we're going to practice on these last 3 balloons. So just like last time, I'm going to select one of my balloons. And this time I'm going to take my paintbrush. Now in Photoshop, we don't have a fill and stroke like we did in Illustrator. We just have our foreground color and what's called our background color. For right now, we really don't need to worry about the background color, just the foreground color. And to change that, you can double click on the color, just like you did in Illustrator, so that you can pick whatever new color you want to work with. I'm gonna pick this like bright orange. And using my brush, I'm going to color inside of my selected area. As you can see, now now the balloon is orange. But it doesn't have that same pattern that all my other balloons have of the little shadow on the side of the highlight on the left. So what I'm going to use now is 2 tricky little tools that are located underneath the paint bucket. One looks like a pin, and that's called the dodge tool. The other looks like a hand that's pinching, and that's called the burn tool. We'll start with the burn tool first. And if you don't like your brush size, you can always come up here to your properties for the brush or whatever tool you're using. Click on the little orb with the number underneath it and drop your size down so that you have a more approachable brush size. Okay, so using the burn tool, I can add shadows. So I'm just going to click and drag on the right side of the balloon. You might be able to see a subtle shadow. It could definitely use more, so I'm going to release my mouse and go back in again. And then one more time to make it a little bit more obvious that there's a shadow there. Every time I release my mouse and click again, you can see it makes the shadow darker. Just like the burn tool applies shadows, the dodge tool applies highlights. So for this, I'm going to make my brush even a little bit smaller, and I can apply a highlight here on the left side of my balloon. Now, if I really wanted to, I could keep applying a highlight here until I've dodged a really light area into my balloon. Or I could do the easier thing of taking my paintbrush again, dropping the size down to be pretty small, changing my foreground color to white, and then just simply drawing on that highlight to match the other balloons. So as you can see, while these balloons look a little bit more like Illustrator, this one truly looks like what I can do with digital painting in Photoshop. I can make gradual changes just like I can with a normal paintbrush. So I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm going to deselect this orange balloon, and now I'm going to select the blue one. I'm going to take my paintbrush, pick a brand new color to turn this balloon. I'm running out of colors. Let's do a yellow. It's good to have a nice big brush size when you are filling these in, because then you can do it pretty quickly. And I'm going to start by burning a shadow on the right side of the balloon, just like all the others. You can see this one a lot more obviously with this color yellow I picked. Now, if your shadow doesn't look like it's popping up, it could be that you've just chosen a really vibrant color. And sometimes really vibrant saturated colors make it hard to see those shadows. Then I'm going to take my dodge tool and apply some highlights on this side where the light hits it. So you can see, get a much more natural looking balloon. And then finally, just so that it has that same detail as all my others, I'll go back to my brush tool, drop down the size, and draw my little highlight. And I'm going to deselect my balloon and move on to my last one. Take the quick selection tool, grab that purple balloon, take my brush tool, let's pick a really deep blue this time. Let's make it a nice big brush. Fill it in. And if you want to dodge before you burn, go for it. Why not? You make the rules. This is your artwork. It's your practice. Take the burn tool, get my preliminary shadow down. I want it to be darker. So I'm going to let go of my mouse and then click and drag again. As you guys can see, using Photoshop is very similar to drawing in real life. There's a lot of, but instead of drawing and holding a pencil to paper, you're clicking and dragging your mouse. And then I'm going to take my brush tool one more time, bring the size way down, change my color picker for the foreground color to white, and draw that last little detail there. And deselect it. So now you can see that I have changed all of the balloons from the original. And we can see that by making the background copy layer invisible and seeing the before and after. You can choose if you want to have 4 of your balloons changed to be just like through the image adjustments, or if you want to do 4 balloons with the paintbrush, dodge, and burn tool. It's completely up to you. But I want you guys to be able to see the differences between preserving the integrity of the original image and then just tracing a shape, but using Photoshop and their drawing tools for the way that they were intended. Actually, these are painting tools, not drawing tools, but. Okay, and the very last step I'm going to do to edit this is a tool that's going to be your best friend, and this is called the crop tool. It looks like 2 L's that are giving each other a hug on the toolbar. And your crop tool just allows you to pull up on an image and then hit enter on your keyboard so that it is a crop size that makes a little bit more sense. Now, when you're saving your work, you always want to save a PSD copy. That means it's a Photoshop file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save and press OK. I'm going to go to File and Save As one more time. And this time, I'm going to turn in this image as a PNG file. PNG files are ideal when we have anything that's going to be transparent or when we use digital painting. JPEGs are ideal for when we are doing something that's just photographs. So since we did painting in here, we're going to do a PNG file to turn this in and hit save. So that I know you understand the difference between a PSD file and a PNG file, for this assignment, please turn in both files of the same thing, of your 7 balloons on Google Classroom. And that's it for your Photoshop practice. Welcome to Photoshop.